Hello, modern nation. I speak of culture. Before modern nation, internation sciences revealed English. Proofs. A database organized crime, then until today, was maintained to maintain the areas and states of each modern nation with a simultaneously tactically from actual value nature system market positions that were forced into internation before all modern nations, forced to alliances as retreat reactions, as fact treatment nature, that were alliances that were fundamental to perpetually areas perpetually internation organized crime facilitated breaching method using human fact treatment nature relationships and database relationships, whereas the database are valued as nature, as our own. Database illusion stacking against every single person motivated per a method that did this to it without everyone realizing, including kings and even the pharaoh, all forced to reactions per what tactically denatured made everyone fact-treating nature slaves, incapable of uniting areas and states, opinion natures, recorded criminally foreign influence. The NFL's criminally foreign influence opinion natures, states and areas opinion natures, highest ranking people interbranch, recorded criminally foreign influence, for the same means to it originally. Before, because they knew the Campus Martius, spell Marcius, but and if you want to look it up, they're going to tell you spell it Martius. This is where time consciously was set up to be stayed perpetually used as fact treatment weapon to all positions, only capable of relying upon others and upon database information categorically made to cover life progressions propagated before our founders' births, inter-sciences, interbranch, inter-internation, consciously maintaining only let realized roles, blaming on others. What forsakes recorded, worse than extorted, bodies with areas, recorded, what's behind it, reliant upon what? Reliant upon hiding behind and keeping sensibilities as criminal insidiousness nature, maintaining originally and still natures of charity needed right where they're doing the worst hurt, multi-front insidious. That's what we use color with the law, which was intercultural. That before money. This is a fact treatment nature racket that had the fact treatment nature slavery of our founders recorded, and recorded simultaneously, forced, glorified, pretend to not realize. This is the difference between knowledge and life as correlation, simultaneous, inherent, active, and progressive means, which is progressive correlations, progressively valuable relationship to itself, to the perfectly progressing identity of value, tall, temporary, lasting value nature as it. How could it be non-living? Because it's a value to the bond. Distinctly to this part of space's body, where its overall body is like our own, bigger than our body. Always, at once, distinctly. But, English was revealed to teach this. It's the soul. Yin Yang was revealed to teach this, but soul, the culture other. Yin Yang is about culture, which is a clear body of value. Now, you take Yin Yang, you separate it from internation science of the species value nature system, you can't teach it right. What they knew, all modern nations fell to what? Retreat and indifference and propagated roles, maintained self-cultivated, blaming on other and others, the real causes of forsaken positive value nature progressions, evolution, of forsaken bodies of nature as value in areas, blaming it on others because of the sciences. The science of the law, its nature was never defended. You see, with our founders, they didn't have free speech. That means they had to pretend and speak as told by really sick things. Not just slavery against blacks. At the same time, multi-front laws crazy to hurt the whole families if people were speaking outside of internation monitor database relationships in relationship to the talking about building infrastructure. What's that mean? That means even the suburbs are criminally foreign influenced, tactically denatured relationships to nature. If we can't describe that, that's where you have to describe it. Because that's simultaneously describing what is recorded. It's recorded too, how it's motivated, pretended not realized. What was holding everyone as a criminal insidiousness nature, because it knew it would have reactions to that facilitated to areas as fact treatment rackets, that the real motivations facilitating the overt criminal enterprises were for. That's how the motivations of the branches for witch trials, for slavery, for Jim Crow laws. It's because their roles with pseudo positive sensibilities, with pseudo positive fact treatment nature, breached, criminally foreign influenced, fake sides against correlation nature, white and black opinion natures, maintained to hurt each side, and all opinions the whole time recorded front to what's preventing criminally foreign influenced foreign branches through areas maintain, through states maintain collusion with what won't let presidents any color have the science which shows bing, 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 positive, positive, positive or not, which is not. And it shows how that's causing criminal insidiousness. Nature is the only realized stewardship reaction to it, to the answers asked for by people in urban areas. Now, this is where we have mental health care consciously recorded, sabotaging the answers of areas interculturally. It's more white people, and they're using KKK themed crimes recorded, child predators recorded, with connections to fact treatment nature reactions intercity associated with each Charter Oak terrorist, recorded and confessed involved with crimes with campuses, with criminal justice, with policing of training and stuff like that, with clubs, involved with the original breaching organized crime that came before all modern nations, through the forced alliances maintained to maintain fake sides, exploited, needing to stay indifferent to and exploiting the same database illusion stacking rackets. Intercampuses tied to crime methods with that, because they knew it would have not just live progressions, but live progression cover-up natures. They have they have AP classes recorded and confessed associated with internation crimes with drugs and things like that, used with class placements where they put people in classes that are going to be interbranch and go into those jobs, criminally foreign influenced by their roles with database solution stacking against what is the nature that is not coming up compromised, which our branches have only been, and that has shared needs to pretend that branches have integrity, implied that they don't. needs to pretend that they think that even just because they're trained that it's legalized, they are legalized criminal insidious nature, they understand that they're also juxtaposed with and as overtly criminal influence because they're victim predators, how they were raised. Statutes were measured, unrealized, criminally foreign influenced. Roles that would make nature's need to cover up lie progressions perpetually staged in areas of collusion with internation shared criminality and crime methods recorded with criminal justice. There's a prison, I think it's called Thomas Ward Prison or something like that in Sandy Hook, Newtown, recorded and confessed to involve doctors associated with them and investigators with them and their family members, with police forms, retired police forms, high ranking, tied to what motivates them to such as victim predators is how investigations are maintained manifest to exploit, for example, how we have nations also shared here as legalized criminal insidiousness nations, but as criminally legalized criminal insidiousness nations, originally and still, since before our founders' births. And so justifications of that are recorded incapable of defending themselves and of allowing free speech the means it has by correlation to demonstrate our founders forced faked speech and for long-term breaching method forced glorified consciously they're not letting them. They didn't just have free speech. They had to pretend other things, to have other things written. Because what was already entrenched here, internation, was already facilitated as Oz that didn't understand it, everybody. Democracy can't work until the republic is known and understood as value as nature, and as it was before it was degraded. In some ancient times, before modern nations, because they knew that this would conceive all modern nations, to force fact treatment nature justifications and reliances upon internation and internation alliances, reactions to negative value nature progressions, with and as bodies of formal sophistication, consciously being maintained, propagated, blaming it on others, the real causes of that, with no one knowing. So this, because they knew that we are value as a nature, and as a nature's relationship to itself, because this is a nature that is a trinity. It is forcing its progression inherently, which is connected to it as a progression that came before and is beyond, while being the value of our temporary, lasting, forever nature, identity. Identity is one nature of its progression, as forever nature. There's also the identity's relationship to itself, which is the identity of value itself. This is the Trinity relationship, why the walls of the body share an identity, which is to positive value nature progressions or negative value nature progressions. Life or death. Per a system that has us as all little parts of its body of value, which is gained here through positive value nature, or forced from here and gained through negative value nature progression, which stays our identity as forever nature, positive or negative. This is the course of English. This is the course of the skies. Overall value is manifest. It's just like oxygen and carbon monoxide are manifest, invisible but still discernible. The same way. The clear body of value of radical correlation is simultaneously discernible. It's also simultaneously discernibly being obfuscated per organized crime method, recorded consciously blaming other causes and on other, what really was making people shoot each other in the north end of Hartford, in the south end of Hartford, where it had, how it happens sometimes in Wethersfield, all connected to the same group of people through time, interbranch, criminal justice juxtaposed, criminally foreign influenced, recorded consciously, internation maintained. For example, in relationship to how we have the policing, see, no one has time, not by accident, to do anything but stay on narratives that are ulterior from the narrative of the Constitution. Free speech is recorded, not led per database solution stacking, with all schools, tied to rackets, pretending that, directed by precedents, recorded criminally foreign influence, directing courts to not speak medical information, knowing that they're going to be directed that part of a whole bunch of crime methods recorded with courts, used to cover up their life progressions tied to how they were recorded, raised as victim predators, with database solution stacking rules, with rackets with the AP classes, and with placements in people's classes where they're isolated from the rest of the people, so people only know each other through conversations they're hearing from other sides of school, and then they have that bridged by people like Joe DeMoro, like other Wethersfield police officers, two Mendez brothers, recorded and confessed with database crimes through time, with schools, and with their roles with on and off campuses, drugs, crimes, and witness fabrication roles, with retired detectives, and with them as ones now standing recorded, involved with child sex offenders already when they hid one by arresting me for trying to report them, recorded with rape threats on the mothers and family members, and on the kids they were have involved, with also juxtaposed undercovers and stuff like that with rape threats, for sustained sick things like that through that racket, maintain criminally foreign influence that way, because it's right with context that they know they're going to have people lie about when they come back. This is what is consciously needing, at the same time, needing regular police maintained as reactions, relying upon these areas, maintain alliances with criminally foreign, as what was just furthering the problem, but no one capable of discerning it, because everyone's can only discern their needs to cover lies and delusions and fact cheating reactions. That was what maintained motivated roles with Jim Crow laws, roles, motivations recorded, needing to pretend that they had prejudice and that was the cause, then and now, because needing to let keep each person who's going to try to use correlation to demonstrate these are not our means and these kids are being exploited. But the mental health care too, with each age of fact cheating nature, with on-off campuses crime method, database solutions, in conjunction with this, with crime methods already through time in courts. Those are natures as criminal and cities. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a criminal. These are criminal cities. Nature is our nature's relationship to itself, as a body of value has a relationship to itself, per the one coming through it that is its own value nature system, as the cause to positive value nature progressions, or as the cause to negative value nature progressions. Lethe of Hades. People stacking what was recorded criminally foreign influence, requiring our American history, requiring too simultaneously the recorded proofs that our agencies, foreign and domestic, were our one recorded criminally foreign influenced body, incapable of the integrity needed to overcome impositions with nuclear weapons, and with treatments of history with the database organized crime, database illusion stacking methods, not let recorded demonstrated. The real cause of a method originally and still recorded reliant upon fake care against prejudice to keep each area's voices blaming on others the actual causes of correlations voice, not let demonstrate the identity of evolution, science, all areas points at once. We have criminally foreign influence zoning laws. We have natures of wealth that are not being discerned how they are recorded being exploited for fact cheap in nature rackets. The sensibilities of the NFL, of each branch of government, how they feel good about themselves, is designed when they made slavery. How could they? That was implied here. That was entrenched here since before our founders' births. Internation, database relationship forced, a crime method with fact cheap in nature, black and white with the law. That's not science. That's a fact cheap in nature racket to maintain reactions, to maintain the cult of propagated criminal insidiousness nature roles, wrongdoers, predicate acts. Juxtaposed natures of other ulterior criminal enterprises, facilitated specifically for the fact cheaping natures interbranch to pretend to have maintained juxtaposed needing to cover because they're going to have neat lies and progressions needed in relationship to their needed by nature fake morality, cover-ups of lie progressions tied by their physical delusions. For example, even today, blaming slavery on money. Our founders would be furious, blaming slavery on money. They were slaves, and that's glorified many ways, because we have sequence nature, which is completely native. That's why I think they leave chief. But still, both Obama's voice and Trump's voice, as a nature, it's not let the nature to have that voice. It's forced to entertain pseudo-positive with itself and with the fake news. So the president keeps saying fake news, but he's not being let to do it because what realizes what he's trying, that nature trying to be realized by a leader. They can't do that and justify all the positions and natures and roles to the negative value nature progression that is a propagated already criminal insidiousness nature, specifically to stay reactions to it to areas and needing to cover up what is in collusion, being exploited, standing as natures with all positions like policing of the stores with the. Not just because juxtaposed with that are reactions to their policing of the stores and treatments with, who's shoplifting, stuff like that. That's being used for them with conversations about life too, and about other people, and that's being used to cultivate people who think they have knowledge, and that's being used to cultivate roles within as. Where no one sees the investigators associated with this, because and they, even though it's recorded, they're maintaining streams of courts into them as victim predators, and they're maintaining the reaction of those courts as victim predators. Already made like that, only that realized like that. Per rackets, worse than interstate collusion. We have our nation's shared policing here. We have Weathersfield schools have more child predators recorded with them. And it's also recorded tied to a pattern where people sought me out sequentially. And then they try to make opinions. They'll leave out the sequence because it shows they have that was tied to their roles with sequence shifts with courts. Like people, I don't know, but through their confessions and roles recorded database solution stacking crimes and acts with areas with campuses that were used, and when they're adults, for their crimes with a child predator principal who recorded and confessed more police involved with that. And then before that, they were already recorded and confessed involved with untimely death people and drug cliques associated on and off campus and with rape threats against the youngest kids in the school. And with police, with the courts through time and their family members. Like a Joshua, I forgot his name. A Mike Pandolf and a Joshua Stryker and a Joshua Stryker, who I never had a conversation with. And there's a Joshua, what's his name? A Joshua Shumack and his mother also recorded and confessed involved with the Wethersfield police, recorded with crimes with groups with two or more overt child sexual predators, but also juxtaposed with other natures of crimes with formal drug crimes with doctors, also forging names through time, and with crime roles on and off campuses with database solution stacking. Also with the maintained juxtaposed natures of investigations are being used for criminally. Like with Fox CT, facilitating and glorifying their relationships, having Los Solitos speak to the kids, which they have recorded and confessed crime roles with, as fake sides with courts and with interbranch police. Different kinds of police with each branch too. And then private, and then all the private bodies connected to that. Victims advocates, for example, just for fact-cheating rackets, to have them pretend they're against things, used to facilitate the worst natures of child predators. They also, like a Walters family, Chris Walters, his mother, his brothers, sisters, recorded and confessed involved with worst interstate crime roles with Cross Automotive. Also, before I ever worked there, Eric Jensen, Ray Collo, and Joe DeMoro recorded and confessed that they were involved with federal crimes with people that lived in Newington, where Eric was living when he went to wine school. And that was tied to them. They put him in a class with me, with others with database crimes tied to that. That they then, as adults, and one of them with a court, and with John Maiano recorded and confessed involved with all these other kind of police forms, crime acts, and roles with other natures through time, and with kids. So we have the FBI with various natures of positions with Wethersfield. And it has them standing as a criminal insidious nature, needing to cover it up per what built them as victim predators through what was as our systems, our policing systems, like with the Yagman family, recorded and confessed involved, with the rest of the recorded and confessed involved. This is a Lethe family also recorded and confessed involved, directing him to evidence his crime roles, his brothers, his mother, and people that live near him, and associated with database crimes, associated with houses near the Samuel Dix house, and on all sides of the high school, recorded and confessed involved database crimes with areas and with witness fabrication rackets, then tied to cases, and with intermilitary. We have, I'm just going to refer to the Marines as Navy, because they're juxtaposed with an Eric Klotz and a Sean Klotz were demonstrated, recorded, and involved with crimes with houses on a two-route highway with other people through time that confessed and recorded They were directed to evidence crime rolls and the various natures of federal crime rolls that were recorded connected. Also to reports of the recorded proofs of police officers and criminal justice people associated in campus ties to a Greg Kyler and Club Blue that were associated with child abuses and with child sex predators intercity. Also tied to murder spots, federal crime rolls with the people, with the investigators and the investigators tied to that. With and as people with roles with the drugs, with the kids, like with this Lethe family, recorded and confessed by his colleagues and friends involved with crimes with courts through time, against each age of fact-shaping nature, chemical crimes, clinical crimes, roles with overt drugs, overt gangland drugs, which is a phrase I'm taking from article about when they had the transition from ACA to RICO, which is also recorded and confessed involved with crimes with people, with investigators through time, with stacking illusions and then exploited them. That was also what was used to facilitate people that pretend to have hate for Arabs who had crime rolls with, I don't know the name of the Arabs yet. I mean the Saudis yet. Not the ones that tied to me. There's ones that associated with Nordstrom's and employees that were there recording and confessed involved with all these juxtaposed natures of crime, but the child abuse. And that was in New Britain, on and off CCSU campuses, associated with a leasing agent and his son, involved with various different police forms, coercing women, exploiting them, making them pretend that things are recorded they're not, making them say shit, shifting things, and then, you know, and even lie in cases, pretend they're you know, be ordered by a judge not to do something, and then do it ordered by the same crooked courts, because they're making fake sides through time, recorded, involved with many people from my town, and they see that these are people that were directed to make illusions, to make it look like I knew them in the past very few times, so they could pretend that what was seen was not. You know, there's nothing to see. They've pretended categorically fake things, fake people tied to them, pretending they had conversations, knew me through time that I never had conversations at all. And the only time I know there was exceptions, those were also recorded and criminally exploited and set up. Like years after, still they were stacking more and more database crimes tied to my video presentation on Stranger Fred Grisey, confessed crime rolls with people that were associated with confessions and various natures of federal crimes when I was in grammar school. And I got connected to confessions that when I was in middle school, and demonstrations of like people trying consciously pretending to, you know, you have the right to say what you think or not on the street. We have no credibility, and then we have people trying to make credibility. They're making fights. They're using each age of fact-sheeping nature, each difference, like boys and girls. We have predators associated, recorded with on and off campus South State Middle School. Further with principals and with what are they called? Leadership of the schools, Wethersfield. So now what they had to do, they had to have WFSB fake both sides of stories with police recorded and confessed involved with who they hid the first child sex offender with the schools. That was already recorded and confessed tied to more of them, and was already recorded and confessed tied to it already sustained since before that. Sex crimes with the people with the court facilitating crimes with the campuses through time. Also recorded tied to the internation rackets with the advanced placement classes and with their narratives, with their sensibilities. and the recorded pretended hate against strangers based on them in the past having had campuses used for a database solution stacking racket, where they then have like the sensibilities of everyone playing, trained to lie, to be undercover, to be, criminally foreign influence frauds. So we have the elections in Wethersfield recorded criminally foreign influence, also tied to people associated with Two-Route Highway, and with judges of various natures of courts criminally involved, recorded at the same time, through time already, because they have, with their police, with the areas, like with the Eric Burgess and others confessed and recorded involved with crimes with the police of Hartford Court and police forms tied to them too, and actors with the court, and with New Britain, and with on-off CCSU, Trinity College, and Lena's Pizza, Daryl Sullivan and his wife tied. They tricked us to think she was another Maggie, also recorded and confessed involved with the investigators on and off campus. Her roommate, not her, they're all victim predators. Then they want to make opinionations because they can't put anything in paper. So CCSU has recorded and confessed crime rolls, database illusion stacking with on and off campus predators, also tied to cases, with crime methods recorded in cases through time already. Database illusion stacking, ulterior from the cases, then just leaving other pretended in databases. Pretending they're medical doctors, forging doctors' names, pretending things into courts' databases with drug clicks, all different other natures of child abuse clicks, database illusion stacking clicks exploiting what was it and facilitating what the overt criminal enterprises are being used for, because these are fake sides. They're only defense of naive, pseudo-positive opinion natures as pseudosciences being used to sustain not let demonstrated correlations means. So everyone could see when we were with, what is it called? Jim Crow laws in the 20th century. Everyone could see that's not prejudice. That's an organized crime method that still had our agencies, criminally foreign influence roles, justifying it, measured tools as pseudo-sophistication nature, incapable of defending themselves but through contrast to exploited areas, real causes of negative value nature progressions and acts blamed on others. That causes criminal seriousness nature positives exploiting the progression nature, the real value, as fact treatment nature. In other words, that's how like Clay Bay was a Olympic boxer. I never had a conversation with my life. He was recorded. He was recorded and demonstrated to me involved with, and has a sophistication that is worse than incapable of being honest when it comes to roles of people around him and the real value of, in other words, he's associated with criminal justice and with prisons. He's associated with people with effectively used KKK crimes, with black and white actors, because they have roles like with crimes with UPS, with the schools, with the other things like that, because the reaction natures that were maintained, measured already. They knew they were going to have to cover up lie progressions facilitated by the breaching organized crime method. This came before modern nations, because it knew it was going to make all modern nations, even pharaohs, need them to blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions on others, because the states and areas of opinion natures were as natures forced now incapable of defending themselves and allowing actual science voice, actual integrities, ability to discern morality per radical correlation onto our nature's body of value that causes the difference. And this is the difference between positive value nature progressions cause evolution or de-evolution. De-evolution, not per science, physical, but